So I'm sick and tired of seeing the 1350 argument of how black people are basically 13% of the population, but yet black men in particular and black women are so violent that we make up 50% of the prison population because we just love killing each other and killing everybody. So a lot of those stats and just thought come from racist inbred stuff from back before our grandparents were born. So let's actually look at the stuff that these, certain supporters and, so-called identified Christians try to push, okay? And we're going to look at the exact table that they try to use against this argument. Look how this says total arrests. So no convictions, no nothing yet. And then as you can see, this is the stats of like, all right, black people lead, 4,000 compared to 3,600. That's where we're at. And what's crazy is like, if someone actually took the time to read instead of be blinded by racism and what their granddaddy told them and what they've been seeing on TV, they would actually learn that it's just a rest, though. So we're going to get into it. But what's crazy is that these same people don't want to look at stuff like this in the same rabbit hole that I went on, because I looked at all different sides. Like, it's literally crazy when compared to, white males, everybody else gets longer sentences. And this is from a national database and research study. We're going to keep going. So just to further reveal that point, the baseline is literally like white dudes and everybody else gets longer sentences for the same crime. Wonder why. Now, what's crazy from the National, Bureau of Justice, statistics, I found that this chart says the times, how many more times that black people get incarcerated than white people per state. So all the numbers at the end of these bars, this is like 6 or 7 times the white baseline of how many more black people get arrested than whites and go to jail. So it's like something's going on. So with the 1350 like bull crap that a lot of the alt-right, right wing, you see what I did there? Say it with me now. Pushes. They also don't use these stats of how black people are 7 times more likely to get falsely convicted. And this is from the University of Michigan, which is a nation worldwide respected institution, and this is their law school. And then they also partnered with several other schools to dive into the same issue. So, and then it actually says like right here how out of all these arrests, 53% of the 3,200 exonerations are black people. So over half of people who are wrongly convicted are black. So how come we could be 13% of the population, get arrested for such high crime rates, but yet be over half of the exoneration percentages? So that doesn't make sense. And as someone who got their bachelor's in psychology, in science particularly, we know how to read stats now. So if I am less than 20% of the population, but yet I'm getting falsely accused over 50% of the time, something's wrong. Something's very wrong. Now, from a different study that incorporated the Michigan statistics, School of Law, like we find the same numbers. 55% of all exonerations are for black people, particularly for murder. So the violent crime debate that black people are the face of, that could be debunked like right here. So it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And these are some other stats that I want people to pay attention to. Even if people want to use the black on black crime narrative, we're still getting killed more. And I say we because I'm half black, and then I could also claim half white. I want everybody to understand this. I am mixed. So I'm pretty much neutral genetically, but I'm just pointing out, that black people still get killed almost 2,000 more. There's 2,000 more deaths right here, or unalived, however you want to call it. And we're only 13% of the population, whether it's by black hands or white hands. And then again, you have that H word up there that I probably can't say, but it says victims. And you see how, black people got the other statistic by like at least 3,000. So yet we're one of the smaller populations, but have the highest victim rates of such violent crimes. Something's not adding up. So from the top, like, black folks, I know that we need to get ourselves together and we need to love ourselves despite the oppression, despite the skewed and biases in the justice system, and how we're seen as more violent, more likely to commit crimes of all accounts. And I know that we've had stuff taken away from redlining, from banks refusing loans, from constant atrocities from like Tulsa and Black Wall Street, where they just burned down estates and then they took the land and didn't let the black people get that land back to have a foundation to build on. And just from, slavery in general. And we were fed colorism to hate dark features and to see that light features are better. So therefore we grow up with that psychology of hating ourselves, and that could be a big proponent of why there is violence still in our community. There's still a lack of care in our community. But for everybody else, it doesn't make it easier when you're the number one target to be put in jail or be put in the unalive category. So as black people are trying to get themselves together, trying to get right, trying to do what Jesus said, it doesn't help if no one else is helping and is fueling that system that puts us in jail, accuses us, and keeps us in jail and keeps us from living. It does not help. So for all the, Charlie Kirks, Ben Shapiro's, and all these like young guys my age, like mid-20s, pushing the violent narrative, you gotta stop, man. Black people are not less intelligent. They're not lesser. They're not more violent. They're not just gifted athletes and entertainers for your pleasure. We are human beings just like you, and we have been dealt the wrong hand for a long time systemically. So you have to grow up and stop being cowards behind certain stats that make you feel comfortable and more superior. I challenge you to look up all this stuff. Just look it up. Be men for once, be women for once, and especially be Christians like you say you are.